RPD, RPD. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado here on the Sports Report, the number one global sports show, pro wrestling star here from Odyssey Pro Wrestling, KLW, Future Shock, Wrestle Island, TNT, and almost everywhere else you can find him. That is the natural born fighter, RPD Davis. The champ is here.
That introduction somehow gets better every time. Every time.
And the funny thing is, today I'm actually have a little bit of a cold, and I was surprised I was able even to pull that off.
Absolutely incredible. You somehow raise the bar every time, Tom. Every time.
Well, these days I feel like a helium balloon when I do this. Famously, there was a singer from a band called Rush, Geddy Lee, and they used to say that Geddy Lee would sing like a helium balloon. And these days I feel like when I do those intros of the Natural Born Fighter, RP Davis, I'm like a helium balloon. But be that as it may, the Natural Born Fighter, we're going shotgun with you because obviously you're getting ready here for KOW's Road to Gold, and we're very happy that you can spend a few minutes with us here. But set the tables for us, as it's been announced here that you're going to be in the tournament against an intriguing opponent in Big Guns Joe. Obviously, you know him very well. He's been a part of several other companies. He's also been on the WWE Network. You see him all the time in Odyssey and pretty much everywhere else I've covered a company at this point. So for those that are watching and listening this on Sportswire Radio and those that are coming out to Cloud9, the lounge tomorrow night, set the tables for us and what we can expect against you and Big Guns Joe.
Well, for one, Tom, nothing but respect for Big Guns Joe. I've known Joe since literally my first ever appearance in a wrestling ring. He was one of the first people I came across. He's done fantastic in his own career. You know, he's everywhere. Like you say, he's been on the WWE Network, everything. And he's someone who I've wanted to have kind of a singles match with for a long, long time because he's improved and he's improved since the time that, you know, I first met him. At the same time, so have I, and so I think it makes for a really, really good match, and I'm excited to test my skills against his.
Absolutely, no question about it. And I feel like that this is almost like literally like a wild card match where, I mean, it's such an intriguing match for a number of reasons. It's an opponent that's in a way kind of similar to you, but in some other ways not similar to you. I mean, talk to me about, in a way, I kind of feel like that this match, the first couple of minutes are going to be so key because of what he does in the ring. It's kind of a little different than the type of opponents we're used to seeing you in with of late.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Joe's very explosive, very powerful. He has obviously a shorter frame and whatnot than me, and so I've got to be careful that he doesn't get under me and pick me up and throw me around. And obviously, what brings me to the dance the most is probably my strikes. So I've got to try and keep him on the end of my strikes and really look to not let him ground me. Use his wrestling, his superior wrestling ability over me, and stick to what I'm good at and what makes me the threat that I believe I am.
Oh, you definitely are. And I think I've said this here numerous times on the air with almost anybody that's come on to Sportswire Radio. I think that you have the best punch in the entire business, pound for pound, anywhere. I mean, I've seen the clips. You've tagged me in them. I've seen you in the ring and wrestle. I really think what's going to be key here for you, and when you win this championship tomorrow night for KOW, now that we're going to crown a new champion from the winner of the Road to Gold tournament, is because you have, again, the best punch, the best strike in this business.
Well, that's very kind of you. Very kind of you. But I agree that I've got a very good punch. I've got a good punch.
You definitely do. No question about it. I mean, and let's talk about KOW here for a second again. Obviously, we had on ALP a few weeks ago, and the news broke down that we're crowning a new champion here. And you've been a champion before, and obviously you've been in big settings, and we'll talk about some of these things. And I mean, does it add almost more incentive here to more or less this tournament and the urgency maybe to win here and become a champion now?
100%. I mean, to be honest, I can delve into this question quite a little bit for you, Tom.
Sure.
I think this is a good point really to try and put my mindset across going into this event. You know, it's a very prestigious event. It's the chance to become the KOW heavyweight champion, which is, you know, it's got a lot of prestige. It's something that has been around for years, and a lot of great competitors have had. So it's something that I want. Obviously, it's something that I want. But you've known me for a while now, Tom. And
I do.
And so I'll talk some truths, and here are the truths. I came to Knockout Wrestling to win championships and become the top of that card. Okay? And if I'm dead honest with you, everywhere I go, every promotion that I go to, I aim for that goal. It's to win championships and get to the top of that card. That's me. That's how I think.
Sure.
Now, if you're in this business and that isn't on your agenda, I don't know what to tell you, but all I can say is that is how I have always been. I'm a competitor, and place two is not where I want to be. I have always wanted to be the very best of wherever I am, and that goes for everywhere I want to go now. So that leads on to this. When I say that I mean that could come across as slightly brash, especially for somebody like myself who has been in professional wrestling probably less than 2 years in a competitive manner. But I haven't paid my wrestling dues as much as some of the people who I respect within the game. I understand that. But I've paid my dues elsewhere. And this is what matters. I have paid my dues. I've paid my dues for 10 years, boxing and fighting all over this country. And for that decade of competition, I was never, ever legitimately beaten. So, you know, I've done it the hard way. I've sacrificed 10 years of my life to something, lived the life. I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, I just did it. I sacrificed parties, I sacrificed everything I could to be the best fighter I could be. And I got to a very, very good level, and sadly, that came away.
I know we spoke about it quite in depth here in the past. The very first time you came on, we spoke about your boxing career. And honestly, you probably be with somewhere right now that you would have been on, probably heard all around the world. That's the path that you were going on. Absolutely no question about that.
Obviously, I can't say that either way, but that was the aim. That was the aim. Now, that career has brought me into the world of professional wrestling. And it's because of what I did there. That's how I got into professional wrestling. Now, I could try and live off that name and live off that career and do that, but I'm not going to. That's simply part of my past. What we can talk about is the present, and the present is in the last year since we came out of lockdown. And forgive me if I'm wrong, and if I am wrong, you know, someone can pull me on it or whatnot. I don't know, but I don't know anybody. I don't know anybody with the experience level that I have had in the professional wrestling game make as big an impact on as many big promotions in the time that I have. And
I couldn't think of anybody. You know what? And I've had on probably more wrestlers than anybody can count humanly possible here live. And I would dare to say that anywhere around the world, there is not a wrestler that has made the impact that you have had with the lack of experience, quote unquote, that you just said. I could not agree with you more.
For experience level, no, I don't. I honestly don't. I don't think there is. And as I say, forgive me if I'm wrong, but you know, I've moved at a pace, and I've moved at a pace because I've come into this game late, and I've had to move at a pace, and that's again, I was never here to be second. I was here to be first, and that's why I've moved fast. Now, I've come to professional wrestling in that last year alone. I have wrestled for some of the biggest promotions in the UK. I have wrestled some of the best wrestlers in the UK.
How about a guy, Anthony Agogo, you were in the ring with? I mean, that speaks for itself.
Who was an Olympic champion, and there's so many others as well. There are, you know, obviously Anthony Agogo, that was an honour to wrestle Anthony, but I've wrestled so many great talents in the country, and I've picked up wins against the most of them. So you know, I have slowly climbed. And then to top it off, of all them matches that I've had, and of all them great competitors I've had, I have debatably had match of the night on nearly every promotion I've ever worked on numerous times, and that isn't me talking. That's not me being cocky or arrogant. That's not me saying it. That's come from the fans. That's come from the promoters. That's come from my own peers.
Well, you know what? Not for nothing. I'm gonna go off and say something before I get comments because you know what? I have on wrestler after wrestler from companies that you've never even worked in, and I bring your name up. They go RPD. I watch his stuff. I'm in awe of what he's done, left and right. I had on Mysterious Mr. B. I had the Lawman Kyle Kennedy on. Your name gets brought up. You name a person. I got Dan Robertson, left and right. Gareth Angel. Gareth Angel has messaged me about you. You name the person.
Yeah.
Your name comes up and you're in such high regard right now that to me, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to say something here. I don't know how you're not a world champion right now.
Well, that again, that's something I'm working towards.
I understand that, but I can say that because I'm not in the ring. I can gladly say that because I've known you a long time and I know the kind of work that you've put in there because I've seen it.
I do work hard. There's many people who work hard. There's many people.
For sure, of course.
But I'm sure I'm certainly not outworked. I work hard for this, and I've dedicated my life to this, just as I did boxing. And with everything I've done within the wrestling business within the last year, I do think the momentum is on my side, and we're going to build and build and build. But also away from the boxing, away from the wrestling, in ring. This is also a business. And if we're going to talk business, from a business perspective, of every promotion that I've ever worked for, and I've worked for some great promotions: Wrestle Island, TNT, Knockout, Odyssey, Future Shock.
Absolutely.
TNT. The list goes on and on. GPW. It just goes on. Wrestle Island. Forever. There's not one promotion, not one that the fans of that promotion haven't got behind me from the second I've walked out the curtain. They haven't cheered me right throughout a match. They haven't enjoyed what I've done in the ring and wanted me to come back. And that is a massive source of being proud for me, because for fans to want me to come back nearly everywhere I go, get behind me nearly everywhere I go, that tells me I'm doing something right. I must be doing something right if the crowd react that way.
Because first of all, and I'll say this again, as we're speaking with the natural born fighter, RP Davis, just hours before his huge match here at KOW against Big Guns Joe in the Road to Gold tournament. We only have a little bit of time left with him, so we appreciate any time he's given us here. But when I think about how you've treated your fans, how you've interacted with your fans, I see the pictures on Instagram. I see the pictures on Twitter and Facebook. There is no wrestler that I have seen, I'll put it out there in the world, that has done more for their fans and cares more for their fans, cares more about doing these things than you. And this is just me. You don't owe me anything. I don't owe you anything. I'm saying it because I know you, and the social media backs that up. There is nobody that has done more for their fans than you.
Well, that's very nice to say. I mean, I don't know whether that's true, but what I do know is that I enjoy. I enjoy that side of things.
You've always been about the fans. You've said it many times. You said with me that you do this for the fans. That's the only reason you went into wrestling, was to do it for the people. That's it.
It's a massive part of this business, and obviously at the end of the day, wrestling, like most businesses, is a bums on seats business. And it's our job to put bums on seats and get people to not just come and watch you and pay for the ticket to watch you, to make them pay to come back again and again and again and again on repeat. And I honestly believe that for any company I work for, I at least bring a little bit of that to it. I do believe
a little bit. You bring a lot. Listen, you bring a lot when it comes to social media buzz, when it comes to engagement, when it comes to tickets, when it comes to all that stuff. So there's no question to me that you have what they would call, quote unquote, the total package and all that different stuff. And let me get to a few comments here before we have a few more minutes here at the Natural Born Fighter, RP Davis. And this gentleman says, evening, gents. And this gentleman knows somebody that I'm very, very good friends with, and I see him one day becoming almost like you in the sense, and his name is the lawman Kyle Kennedy, and I want to make sure he gets an acknowledged because he's making his way. He's got a little less experience than you, but I see in about a year from now, he's going to be where you are. So I'm looking forward to seeing the future of him. My very good friend, Anthony Finkel, huge wrestling fan. We go to wrestling shows all the time together now, and he says RPD, RPD, and Anthony, of course, DPH
Hello,
Property Service and Maintenance. Big, big supporter of mine. Loves everything you do. Although he's a bit of an Andre Decker fan, so cut him a little slack because he does like Andre Decker. And
every
another guy I become friends with, the guy Dan Roberts, another young guy starting out, was in GT Ministries not too long ago. Says RPD, massive amounts of respect. He got his first victory a couple weeks ago in nonstop action wrestling. I'm going to bring him back, but
congratulations.
absolutely. I got all that stuff about KOW. I'll come back to them very quick because I got only a little bit of time with you, but I want to come back to Odyssey Pro Wrestling because there's this whole thing where Chris Brooker's picking stipulations, Ethan Edwards is picking stipulations, and Chris Brooker now has picked a stipulation, and that means your opponent now is 2-Bit, and certainly 2-Bit we know very well here on this show, and certainly I know you know him very well, and I believe this is the first time you and him are crossing paths in a ring here in Odyssey, and I mean, set the tables for us Panic Stations, which is just 3 short weeks from tomorrow, and talk about it for us.
Well, an Odyssey show is a show I'm always excited about.
Absolutely.
You know, I have a massive connection to that place, and the opportunity they gave me very early on before lockdown finished. They were on my side and with me.
We were here with you and Rick, and we saw that all from the ground up.
So they feel like family to me, do Odyssey. So I try my very best to be what I know they want me to be for them, and I really put the effort in to do that. But the situation we've got at Odyssey at the minute is we've got 2 general managers. We've got Ethan and we've got Chris. I prefer Ethan, but just don't.
I know we went into that when Decker was here. When Decker was here a couple of weeks ago, we went into that whole kind of like snafu there.
He's on. Chris sadly has put himself on my hit list, and I will catch up with Chris eventually. But that's irregardless. For this particular show, Ryan Hunter his opponent has been chosen by Ethan. It's a pick you up sort of an event, and Chris has picked mine. And Chris has decided to pick 2-Bit, who obviously, goes without saying is
100%
one of the best talents in the country. In every respect, he is a total package. You said total package before. He is a total package. that kid can talk. He can wrestle. He's vicious. He can do everything.
He's the one wrestler I've had on here in almost 2 years that I legitimately thought would bite my head off. Of all the wrestlers, he was the only one.
He's an intense sort of guy.
Yep.
It's a match that I'm excited for because I think the Morecambe crowd will love it, and again, it gives me an opportunity to test myself and prove myself in front of them and to Chris Brooker because, as I've said, I've said from day one, I'm coming for the whole group, the spotlight, the lot of them.
I know.
We've gone through a few of them already. We've got a few left, and I will get through them. This is the little. This seems to be the little hurdle he's put in my way in terms of 2-Bit. I think he thinks this is going to stop me and stop my momentum. But as good as 2-Bit is, and he is exceptional, he ain't going to be good enough. And believe me when I tell you, I am going to knock him out.
And I have a very strong feeling he'll do that, the natural born fighter RP Davis, and I certainly hope because I've had 2-Bit on 3 or 4 different times, and it gets worse and worse each time I have him on. But certainly make sure you follow the natural born fighter on Twitter at RPD Fighter, also r.p.davis as well on Instagram. Also like his page on Facebook as well because he has always been one of my all-time favorites here, and we have a few short minutes with him. I am the host of the Sports Report, the station manager of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Brights. In about 10 or so minutes from now, we will have on Wildfire Nate Reese, who will also be in the ring. He will be at the LWF's Honor and Glory show tomorrow. He'll be as a part of the team Crossfire, and the natural born fighter RP Davis not too long ago was in the ring with the asset Stephen Cross, who was tag teaming with Nate Reese. So this all comes around, and I got to ask you again, I know I've asked this before, but, I mean, would you have thought 20 years ago that you and Nate Reese would all of a sudden be doing a radio interview about your matches and the same day and different cards and part of two really intriguing matches. This is almost like hell froze over, or maybe just like the irony.
One day I'll have to write a book about how my life. It's not how I anticipated. But if you'd have asked 12 or 13-year-old me and I nearly called him by name. Then I nearly broke.
Yeah, don't do that here, because he'll find out about that. Trust me.
If Wildfire or me would have been asked when we were 12 or 13, we would have said yes, because we were huge wrestling fans, and we used to kind of reenact that back at school.
Yep.
And then life comes along, and all the things that happen in life, and you grow up and whatnot. But I'm just very, very happy. I'm very, very happy that I found my way back to this world, because it's something I've always had a massive passion for.
Yeah, you always, even with you always loved wrestling. It was not like, okay, you know what, I was into boxing and that was it. Sometimes you see athletes and they say, you know what, I was just in my field and that's all I wanted to do. I never liked wrestling. Goldberg used to always famously say, well, I was in the NFL and I never liked wrestling and I did it because I needed the money and I had an injury. No, you always had passion for this business. And that's why, and I'm going to say it before we get to closing thoughts, I want to see you tomorrow walk away, win this road to gold. Because when I think about the roster, here's the work shoot here. Here's the full shoot from the Reverend Tom Bryce, because I'm a Reverend and I'm going to do this here. I look at the talent, and no disrespect to him. Andre Decker, we've had him on a million times. He and him will circle the wagons back and forth over and over. Nightmare's now injured. Lucas Neon, I love Lucas. I've had him on. Taylor West, you name everybody else that's in that field. There is nobody right now in my mind that should be a better world champion or a better person that can carry KOW into the next decade, into the next year, and into the immediate future than you. So I'm going to go on the record here and say that I want to see you tomorrow night walk away, win Road to Gold, and win that title, because I think right now when it comes to promoting KOW, when it comes to the fans, when it comes to everything that you bring to the table, I see you as the guy that can shoulder KOW into the future and beyond.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Again, you've always been very kind, and I appreciate that. But to add my little spin on that, I'm excited for the match tomorrow. I'm really, really excited. I'm excited.
So am I.
A prestigious title, and I would love to lift it. But my thoughts on it are this, and this is with total respect, by the way, when I say this, and I truly mean that. Every single competitor in that tournament are class acts. They're all phenomenal.
100%. Lucas Neon I've had on. Obviously Decker. I know Decker very well, despite our back and forth. I love what all of them bring to the table.
I've got to know all of them over my little journey here, and they are great talents and formidable opponents. Absolutely no doubt about it. But and this is my hand on my heart and my truth. Me saying my truth. There is not one man in that whole tournament, not one single man, who I honestly, truly believe can legitimately beat me. And that's why I will win this tournament tomorrow. And that's why I will lift the KOW heavyweight title.
Well, I'll tell you what, I can't wait, ladies and gentlemen, to say, and the new KOW heavyweight champion of the world, RPD Davis. And I want to go say one more thing before I get to closing thoughts. I would love to see, because I know it's happening in the Kingdom of Wrestling, I would love to see you and Lance Rivera in the finals. That to me, because obviously he's a champion already in another company, and I would love to see that happen, because something tells me you and the Playboy Prince, Lance Rivera, are going to sell a lot of tickets, are going to make a lot of magic. And I also, by the way, before I get to closing thoughts, I want to give a shout out actually to a wrestler that I know we've spoke about in the past and has spoke about you. That is Chocolate Thunder. And Chocolate Thunder is going really through something that I hope that people can really support him on. He's a great guy. I know that this is not something that I planned, but I thought about it because he's really somebody that means a lot in the wrestling business. You see him in so many other places, Wrestle Island. He's pretty much wrestled everywhere. He's a great guy. And I just want to acknowledge him because he's somebody that is really going through something right now that if you can and just give him a few prayers, give him a few thoughts, anything you can do, give him a follow on Twitter at CHOCCY_Thunder. Also, please follow him also on Instagram. He's really somebody that was one of my favorite people that I had a chance to speak with. Also, Instagram again, CHOCCY_Thunder. Anything real quick before I give you a final thought on Chocolate Thunder? Because I might as well
Yeah,
ask you about it.
just add to that on Chocolate Thunder. Obviously, when something like this happens, it's really, really, really unfortunate for Chucky. But Chucky's a fighter, and he'll get through this. Don't you worry about that. But it's very easy when something like this happens to just kind of jump on the bandwagon a little bit and say what a great guy he was, and da-da-da-da. I genuinely mean this. And this is nothing to do with the diagnosis. Absolutely nothing to do with the diagnosis. Chocolate Thunder is one of the nicest people I have met in this business.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
From the day that I met him, I got on with him. He was a gentleman. It's so unfortunate what's happened to him, but I have nothing but faith that he's going to absolutely smash it. I think he'll smash it and get through this and come out through the other side. But that being said, like you just said then, if anyone can do anything to help him now, buy his merch, support him, send him a message and tell him that you're thinking of him, anything like that. Good people deserve support, and Chucky is one of the very best about.
Absolutely, no question about it. And again, he was somebody. I think me and him, when we were on the air, we were comparing kind of like our facial hair, and just a cool dude. Obviously, you and him had an interesting in the battle royal several months back, where he was kind of shaking himself. But obviously, all kidding aside, we love him, and I know you have to run. So let me give you the floor. Let me give you any closing thoughts. Anything else you want to say about tomorrow night, Odyssey? I turn it over to you, my friend, and the floor is yours.
No, I think I've said what I need to say. I'm very excited for tomorrow night, and really excited to wrestle Big Guns Joe. Definitely been on my bucket list of dream matches that I have not yet done. I'm excited, really, really excited, and I think it's going to be a great event. And then as for Odyssey, always excited to return to Odyssey. I'm excited to go against 2-Bit, and I'm excited to see that Morecambe crowd again. And the Barrow.
Morecambe. Listen, I was speaking with a wrestler, and the Morecambe crowd I've heard is like unbelievable.
Unbelievable. But in all fairness, so is Barrow. So is KOW. I mean, they are.
I love KOW. Always have.
They are as passionate a fan base. Them two companies that they're certainly right up there as the most passionate fans that I've ever come across. And so, yeah, really excited for both events, and let's get it done. Let's get it done. Start adding some titles to the roster.
And if you want to follow the Natural Born Fighter, RP Davis here one more time on Instagram, it's r.p.davis. RPD Fighter on Twitter. Also like his page on Facebook. Also Odyssey Pro Wrestling on Instagram and Facebook at Odyssey Pro Wrestling. Also YouTube as well. OPW_UK as well. And also, before I let you go, one more shout out is from the Interstate Openweight Champion here in Wrestling Championship Entertainment. He's also going to be in the ring tomorrow. That is our very dear friend, Mr. James Marshall. And he's in a 30-minute Ironman match tomorrow against Nicholas Crenson, who's competing to win his first world championship in almost 17 years. So you could be a champion tomorrow night. James Marshall could be a world champion also by tomorrow night, retaining his championship. And that's a pretty cool thing. And of course, WCE Heat also on Facebook here. And obviously, I know you got to run. So I thank you for everything. Thank you for all that you do for us. You know that we're rooting for you here. We can't wait to see you bring home that gold. And we'll definitely speak with you soon here, champ.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Tom.
You got it. And now, listen, that's the magic of technology here. And James Marshall says, good luck, RPD. So we certainly appreciate that here. I hope the champ sticks with us. And you got a tough act to follow up there, champ. But I know you're going to do it here and some. So without further ado here on the Sports Report, the number one Global Sports Show wrestling star here from the LWF. That is Wildfire Nate Reese. My friend, I just realized that you have I guess, a new name. Would you want to discuss what this new name may be?
Well, it felt apt for giving the honour and glorious tomorrow, and hopefully it'll expand the screen for all the viewers watching on Facebook and everywhere else. But I've just put the Destroyer of Lancador's Wildfire, Nate Reese. I was going to put Destroyer of Lancador's Wildfire, Nate Reese, Stephen Cross's best friend, part of the greatest tag team
I don't
ever
think
in
that
the...
would fit, though.
There's not enough characters. There's just not enough characters. So I've got to look out the window and think it's the one that got away. It's the name that got away.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess you could always do what the Ultimate Warrior did years ago and actually petition the court to change his name. I mean, and you could always try that, I guess. I mean, it worked here. He actually went by, I think it was Jim Helvig was his real name, then he went by Warrior, and his wife is Dana Warrior. So do you want to go to the courts and petition to go from Wildfire Nate Reese instead to Destroyer of Lancador's Wildfire Nate Reese, best friends of the asset Stephen Cross?
The comic book series would be out intermittently, followed on from that. It would be wondrous.
Well, I hope
Just in
your
time for
comic book
Christmas.
would be better than the Warriors comic book, because there was a bunch of Goldberg had a comic book, Kevin Nash had one, the Warrior had one, I think Sting had one. I think I looked through them for like 2 minutes, and I'm like, well, okay, that'll be somewhere in the scrap heap. But be that as it may, be that enough about court changes, and also James Marshall, by the way, I want to give a shout out to him because he has something to say to you, and of course he is also wrestling tomorrow night because he here in America. He is a world champion. He is the interstate open weight champion for our friends over at Wrestling Championship Entertainment. You can follow them on Facebook at WCE Heat, WCEHeat.com for more information. Also, Wrestling Championship Entertainment on YouTube. He says that he would buy that for $1. So he would buy your comic book for $1. So you might have a new fan, I guess, a fellow wrestler, and also probably been wrestling about as long as you.
That would be a very sharp investment, and I'm sure it would have greater value attached the longer we go on, especially if we could get some wondrous artwork like a Jim Lee rendition of Stephen Cross, which would just be magnificent. I don't know, or who else am I fond of? Like a Chris Bachelor of me beating up the Lancadors. I don't know, an EJ Sue version of me, maybe as a robot, because the bionic biceps. Who knows what would come up? But I buy that for
RPD had, I think, maybe the bionic biceps because all I kept doing was looking at his shoulders these days. So, I mean, you're in good shape, but I mean, he certainly might have the biceps that you might be talking about.
He's doing pretty good, isn't he? I saw him before just on the show, and again, he's got a big contest coming up tomorrow. But so have I. Very good.
And I want to talk about that here, and I'm glad that you brought that up here for those that are watching and listening to this here on Sportswire Radio. And I'm sure that you heard a few days ago from your opponent that you're going to see across the apron tomorrow night at the Buckshore Village Community Center, and that is the mysterious Mr. B. And he had a lot to say about you. He had thoughts about the mask. He had thoughts about your relationship with Mr. Cross, and he basically ran the gauntlet of topics. And now that you're here for us, and we get to get your last words on it and much, much more. So what was your impressions of what the mysterious Mr. B had to say about you a few short days ago?
Quite honestly, I was astounded, Tom.
Wait,
astounded.
why?
He had a vocabulary. Mr. B could actually have words come out of his mouth.
He actually, I think it's the third time we had him on. It was the best I think he ever spoke altogether. And he actually told me that off the air. He's like, that was the best I ever spoke. He said, what happened to me? I'm like, well, way.
What noises did emit from his being, from his posterior, and they didn't upset dolphins. They were actual words rather than just sound. So, but I did listen to everything that he said, and you could see that Mr. B, the time for play is done. The videos, all the promotion, all the little trolling that he's been dying to do, that's gone away, and just like I said it would, because if you've noticed, Stephen Cross has gone quiet. He's off the grid.
He's been quiet for weeks, though. I said Stephen Cross. He's always quiet, though.
But we talked about RPD and biceps.
True.
You look at Cross. Do you think that somebody like him, who is so angry and so furious at Mr. B and the Lancadors, there's a reason he's not been around? That is because he's in the gym constantly.
Oh, he's always in the gym. Listen, he's always.
No, but I mean, he will be grinding on a whole nother level be full of rage and bitterness and despair. And that is exactly what will fuel him. And that is what's going to fuel ourselves as a team. And Mr. B talks about, there's a bond, there's a connection. But like they say, two's company, three's a crowd. Los Angeles is always a three. If you look at the way that they've teamed, when they've teamed together, they've not actually had too many matches as Mr. B and the Masked Marauder.
True, and they haven't really had any success either.
This is it. So, quite frankly, it's an even playing field. We've got everything to play for. Yet me and Stephen Cross, inadvertently, without even trying, showcase chemistry in various tag team scenarios and situations we've been put into. So imagine now
wait. I have to interject for a second because you said that, and you know I love Cross, you know I love you at this point. Obviously, you know that we have a relationship, and I defend you to a T. But objectively speaking, because I have to be objective here for a second, yes, it's Stephen Cross hasn't exactly shown a moment that I've seen out there that he really wanted to team with anyone.
Let's just talk about the context. He's not showcased the moment that he's wanted to team with anybody, but when he's been placed with me, begrudgingly, resentfully, forcefully, unappreciatively, there's chemistry there. There's something happens. There's just that magic. Whether it is such that streamlined offensive when he hits those knees and I swing them round for that back suplex, or when he snapmare them over and I kick them, and just when everything's great, I'm getting right in those wretches in Charlie's face and I turn around and he kind of slams me on them and it hurts a little bit, but friendly fire sometimes occurs to be a team effort. I am a team player. So inadvertently, we've showcased chemistry as opposed to people that have been together as a three, as a unit for a longer perceived period of time. This is our first official match as a tag team. Me and Cross together as a team against another tag team. So let's just see who really has that connection, that bond. And quite frankly, everybody knows that myself and Stephen Cross, our relationship is just going to move on to just another level.
I certainly hope that will be the case. And if you like what you hear from Wildfire Nate Reese, do give him a follow at Nate Reese Wrestling on Facebook here. Also Instagram, Nate_Reese_Wrestling. And I am the host of the Sports Report, the station manager of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. And the champ, James Marshall, says more vocabulary than the old school El Generico. I'll take it. So, all right. So we'll certainly appreciate the kind words for the champ. And he's going to be in a 30-minute Iron Man match tomorrow. So that's certainly something that we spoke about with him a couple days ago. We hope that he's training for that and he comes away with the victory, and we'll see about everything else that he brings here. But, Wildfire Nate Reese, I had asked Mysterious Mr. B this question. I want to get your thoughts on it because I had asked him about the fact that I actually feel like right now that the winner of this match all of a sudden kind of leapfrogs themselves in the tag team division. Because take a step back for a second. I know I spoke about this with you and I spoke about this with Mr. B. And I said, you look at the tag team division right now in the LWF. We got Shining Wizard. We got the Wrecking Crew. We got the Models. We got the Merseyside Mercenary Squad. We've got so many teams. Synergy, of course, and we're the champions. There are so many teams right now in the LWF that between you and the Los Lancadores, all of a sudden a win can kind of put you guys and give you guys that fire, that crossfire, to all of a sudden become tag team contenders and maybe hold some gold here in a few months. Do you feel like that this is a match that's big for both teams and all of a sudden can leapfrog whoever wins here tomorrow night at the Buckshore Village Community Center into tag team title contenders?
What a superb question. And you're right, the LWF has a very excellent stacked tag team roster. And like you mentioned there, you've got Shining Wizard. Oh, you've got the Worst. Oh, you've got Synergy. You've got the Mercenary Squad. You've got the Models. Oh, there's so many teams. And if you notice, on the card for tomorrow for Honor and Glory, there's a 6-person intergender tag team match.
Yep, I saw that, yes.
With the absolute Worst. That's the Worst in Katie Hawkins against Shining Wizard with Helena Razor.
Who we've had on here in the past, and you know very well on a personal level.
That's it. And we've got the Wrecking Crew versus the Models. Then you've got myself versus Los Lankadors. So, in reference to your question, anybody that has a win could be placed immediately into the title contention against Synergy. So it's almost not about making the win as much. It's still important, still crucial. It's about making that statement. And it's going to be which team makes the greatest and the most important statement coming out of Honor and Glory. And that is going to be the real keeper there as to who decides who is next. The Models are a superb team. One of the most important teams in British wrestling the last 15 years.
Absolutely. No question about that.
Absolute staple. Every promotion in the Northwest, the Models have been a part of in some form or another. Joey Hayes in particular is probably the most underrated journeyman in wrestling in this country, hands down. Somebody you most definitely need to see wherever he goes.
To himself, to his credit, said the same thing. He praised Joey Hayes when we had him on Tuesday.
He must have had something in common.
Ooh. Yeah. Scary, right? Scary, right?
Don't feel so well now, Tom. But looking at all of these teams, they are a consummate team. And they're probably the favourites to become number one contenders. They're probably the ones that people may assume would become number one contenders moving forwards. You have the Wrecking Crew, again, another strong showing. Their ally, Davey Getski, became LWF champion. Surely they want to get right back in title contention like they've done previously, a more solidified, more dominant unit that they've been before. Shining Wizard, plucky upstarts. They've been going back and forth with the worst. The worst have a lot to prove. And that they've got Katie Cassidy. That could be the X factor within this six-person matchup. So everybody's got a lot to gain. But yet me and Stephen Cross have the most to gain. We've got the most to prove, the most to rectify, the biggest statement to make. And that's what's really going to be the most apparent thing coming out of the show tomorrow evening.
Absolutely, no question about that here. And again, if you like what you hear from the LWF, I want to make sure that everybody follows the LWF Twitter, LWF the LWF Wrestling on Instagram, also Facebook as well, like the LWF pages. I've tagged it. Also YouTube, LWF Television, where you can support great shows and great content like Monday Night Mutiny and other stuff. And really one of my favorite companies around is the LWF. They've always done so much for the community, so much for wrestlers. Obviously, the Academy, Wildfire Nate Reese is a part of that as well. Please support the LWF. I cannot stress that enough. And I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager here of Sportzwire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. And I got to ask you, I mean, what'd you think about those Donald Duck comments still? Donald Duck, and I mean, they've been kind of going off still on that. We had Mr. B on it again, and I got to again come back to that and ask your opinions. I mean, is that going to actually, which I told him, which is Mr. B, I had said that, you know what? Don't you think that could be motivating you and Cross? Because, I mean, they've been antagonizing you on social media for weeks, and sometimes it's almost like a bully, where they're bullying you as somebody who makes fun of somebody after a certain amount of time, and then they see you. And I had equated this to the story I had told Mr. B to kind of warn him, foreshadow him for what could be coming his way tomorrow night at the Buckshore Village Community Center. I was in 6th grade, and it was for months. There was a kid. He was bigger than me, and I'm not a short guy, but he was bigger than me, and he constantly made fun of me. I wore sweatpants, and I had bushy hair, whatever it was, right? So one day after gym class had ended, I took him from behind, and I choked him. Actually, I grabbed him, and I took him down. I could have killed him. That's how bad I choked him out. So the point is, this was 25 years ago, so kids don't try it at home. But the fact of the matter is, I had told the mysterious Mr. B that what he and the Masked Marauder and Disprasada are doing to you and Mr. Cross, tomorrow night, you guys might try the same thing. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
I really appreciate that analogy, and I'm sure the school board will be contacting you very soon to
investigate. I'm sure there's people right now that are fed up with me left and right all over the world, so I'm sure that's coming.
Like water off a duck's back, cartoon or otherwise, those comments have continued to come, and it's nothing new from Charlie and the LWF. You've seen the wretches there, the comments, the disdain that they show me every single time, and they call me things such as tiny temper. When they boo me, they discuss that I don't have any friends. They talk about how Stephen Cross doesn't want to team up with me, how Tonga never wants to call me back. They've done it plenty of times. The constant matches that they try and put me in, the barrage of abuse that they do, the fact that they had to cut half the roster just to make sure Bob Costin got a win over me. It's nothing new. But I did appreciate what you said there. And that just maybe, just maybe, they're starting to pull at the wrong threads. And the more and more that they want to keep doing this, the worse it's going to get for them. Because if you think of any other team that they've faced, they haven't tried pressing the buttons like they've done with us.
No. And Cross has been for months. Listen, Mysterious Mr. B and Cross have been going back and forth for the better of, 5 months now? I think about 5-6 months at this point that's been going on. And you and obviously the Los Lancadores has been on for the better part of over a month now. And like I said, sometimes when you poke the bear and you poke it so long that the bear might come back. It might just eat you alive. And again, right now, the way I see it, I tried to warn the Mysterious Mr. B, but he didn't seem too concerned. He didn't seem too bothered about it. He didn't seem too phased. So you know what? Maybe he knows something that I don't know. I mean, all I have to say is stay tuned and certainly make sure to get out there to the Buckshaw Village Community Center, certainly because the LWF Honor and Glory, what a card this is going to be. Obviously, Crossfire versus the Los Lancadores with Disfrasada in their corner. Also, Eitan Steen and Bob Costin. I mean, I actually think that might be the match of the night. You know what? Because I look at Eitan Steen right now, and I'm going to go on the record in saying this. And I hope nobody either quotes me on this or kills me for saying this. I think in 2023, Eitan Steen is going to be a world champion somewhere. I don't know if it's going to be in the LWF. I don't know if it's going to be in BTW or wherever else he wrestles, but just something tells me that Eitan Steen is going to be a world champion. So that might be the match that I would look forward to most if I'm coming out and buying the ticket to the Buckshaw Village Community Center. Obviously, the absolute worst for Shining Wizard. We've got Gunn versus Getsky, the rubber match. I mean, we've got the Wrecking Crew versus the Models. I mean, we've got so many great matches. Jenny B and Lana Austin. That might be the match that could very well be the main event. It's a double main event in my mind, but that very well could be the closer. There is so many great shows. You need to make sure you get out there. And if you like what you hear from Sportswire Radio, do give us a like on Facebook at Sportswire Radio, and certainly 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can listen to all of our great content on sportnarium.com/player. And I wanted to take a minute here also to pay my respects and condolences to Queen Elizabeth. I didn't do it with RPD because RPD was like, I got to go. I got to train. I got Big Guns Joe, but I did want to pay my respects to Queen Elizabeth. And you know what? As an American like myself, I have to ask you, as much as I love England now, I've almost like everybody asked me about England and how much I love this country. I've almost now should say I'm Thomas Bryce from the United Kingdom at this point, or Chorley or somewhere else. You got to give me a thought or two on Queen Elizabeth and what she meant to this country.
You don't want to associate yourself with Chorley, Tom. Let's just not. Let's not say things that we can't take back. It's okay.
Fair enough. I'll give you that much.
In regard to Her Royal Majesty Queen Elizabeth, who passed away yesterday, a lot of people have varying different views. The royal family is very beloved here. It's that you often have a lot of tourists go to Buckingham Palace or Windsor Castle.
I saw the British Bulldog. He was on the Instagram page. Obviously, his daughter runs it, and he was right there, Buckingham Palace. A whole bunch of pictures I saw.
She's been a very important figurehead in culture. Think of popular culture. You think of almost any connotations of the UK. It's probably either going to be Harry Potter, James Bond, or the Queen.
And you, of course, right behind.
We'll see. Give it time when that comic book comes out. But I think something that is maybe not as known as such, or when you think about it in long terms, and you've talked about careers before, like in sports and in wrestling and things like this, the Queen essentially became part of the royal family, became Queen and gained that role at 21 years old. She served in World War II. She's gone through this passage of time, which is equated to 15 different prime ministers. From Winston Churchill was the first one working as prime minister when she took up the throne. She essentially worked until 96 years old in service for this country and for elsewhere. So regardless of where people feel about different things, and I know the royal family, lots of people have very different opinions. Some are very, very supportive. Others may find it confrontational to have maybe a monarchy that's entailed to them, but this was somebody who gave up nearly their entire life in service to this country. And this is why it is so significant. Even when you think of small things like currency or stamps, in all that I've known ever since I've grown up, from being a young person that was born in 1987 till now, Queen Elizabeth was the Queen. Essentially, there was the Queen Mother, but the Queen, we've gone through the Jubilee. They had the Platinum Jubilee this year. So she's been a very, very significant figure, huge historical figure that my nephew, who's 5, my niece is 2, I do hope that they will learn and they will gain some form of understanding about that along in their country, just as much as they're going to gain an understanding about how Uncle Nate is going to destroy the Los Lancadors in Chorley. But in all seriousness, a lot of people have been affected or have a lot of thoughts about this. It's any media coverage within the UK, on the radio, on television, online. It's going to be a huge story for quite a long time. So I do appreciate giving the time just to reflect on the Queen. And various different people have commented, and I believe The Rock has left some comments online as well. He shared his thoughts about sort of everything that the Queen has done. And a lot of people will continue to do so. She touched a lot of lives. She meant a lot to a lot of different people.
No question about it. And I thought that it was the right thing to do to at least spend a couple of minutes on it, just because we speak so much about different things and different topics that are related to the UK. And obviously having so many wrestlers that live here, I thought it was at least, how can I put it, maybe poetic or whatever you might want to call the term here, to at least spend that time and pay the respect to Queen Elizabeth in 96. I mean, regardless of what you think about somebody, to live to 96, I mean, that's very, very hard. We're talking about that's quite a life and quite a journey. And I saw in the New York Post yesterday, I believe it was, and they showed like the chronological order of the photos of her, and it's just amazing. I mean, quite a story, quite a journey. Obviously, we do send condolences and prayers to anybody impacted by the loss, certainly for the country here. Obviously, the country, like everywhere else in the world, has gone through some really, really difficult times. And I think that what I remember most about Queen Elizabeth was she was, I think, a very strong rock during the COVID pandemic. And I think in terms of trying to give people some compassion and some strength. So I think that's what I'll try. I'll try to take the good right now. I know there's people out there that I've seen on Facebook saying different things, like you said, but I'm going to try to focus on the positives here. But before we get to closing thoughts here, and I know I asked the mysterious Mr. B this question, I'm going to ask you now this question. What do you want to say is your final words before tomorrow night at the Buckshaw Village Community Center to the Los Lancadors and Disfrasada?
I almost want to apologize in advance, but no. Everything that you've done, there are all these videos you posted, all the griping, all the twitching, all the prodding. And you mentioned about prodding the bear. I think it's the wrong animal in this analogy. Me and Cross are going to be like jackals. One of us is bad enough, but in packs, we're going to roam, we're going to tear them apart. As much as they like to use humor as a distraction method, there is a method to Mr. B's madness. He does get wins, he can gain some success, he can throw people off. You think of some of the great tag teams in wrestling, or performers like Too Cool, Scotty 2 Hotty. People love Scotty because, again, he utilized certain things, Norman Smiley, as a way of almost
the
like
wiggle.
a distraction. Exactly. Santino almost became WWE World Champion in the Elimination Chamber. Sometimes people misunderstand that.
Regal and Eugene was another example of that. Remember them as a tag team? That was
Regal
the perfect example of that.
They use humor as not only a coping mechanism, but a distraction. Los Lancadors are very good at doing that, in addition to some teamwork. But you've got somebody who's been so mismanaged, so been treated detrimentally for the past 8 months. Then you've got Stephen Cross, who is so below ground right now because he's so angry at everything that's gone. These casting comparisons, he's unbearable to even approach right now. He says I'm unbearable, but he's just at a whole other level right now. He's a grenade with the pin pulled out. There's going to be no sporting contest. It's not going to be a case of athletic prowess or technical counters. It's going to be more a case of, if we get you in the corner, we're going to take the elbow and rub it against the mask so you can't see. Just when we get to that 4 count, there's going to be body blows. There's going to be chokes. Like you mentioned before, Mass Marauder's been in Florida picking novelty Donald Duck items. He's not been kicking punching bags like I have. Not been using training dummies. Not been learning new holds. Not been learning new ways to submit a person, bring pain on, dislodge some joints and some digits. So we will see what happens when the one team that nobody thought could come together, even when pressed, even when put in all sorts of different circumstances, will go from being unmentionable to unforgettable in one evening. And it's not just about winning this match. It's not just about sticking it to everybody in Charlie, not sticking about to LWF management. It's about getting onto Synergy. We want to be the number one contenders coming out of tomorrow night. So let's just see what happens. See what happens with the rest of the card. You talk about honor and glory. There is not going to be honor or glory in that match. It's going to be the team of Crossfire under a blazing hail of fire, a true baptism of fire, proving that once and for all, we can be a truly significant team with nothing to lose.
Well, I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, if you aren't following the LWF after this, you most certainly need to follow the LWF. And certainly, this is going to be a very, very intriguing match. The team of the Los Lankadors with Disfrasada in their corner. We will see the Masked Marauder and the mysterious Mr. B, who came on the show Tuesday to speak about all things related here to this match and much, much more. And the team of Crossfire, almost Sportswire's team, the Asset Stephen Cross, and Wildfire Nate Reese, who's certainly right now, and he's fired up. He's full of fire. And will the Los Lankadors get into that Crossfire? I don't know. What I will say is stay tuned. Certainly, I'm looking forward to this match. The LWF Wrestling on Instagram, LWF on Twitter, LWF Television on YouTube as well. Also like the page on Facebook. And the LWF now is on TikTok. So I almost have to ask before I get to closing thoughts, are you going to TikTok soon? Because the LWF is now even on TikTok.
Don't be ridiculous.
With that mask you had last week, I mean, maybe somebody would want to see it out there. Who knows?
Maybe things could be worse.
Wait. Before we go, that mask, again, hold that mask back up. Are you planning, by any chance, to bring that mask tomorrow night to the Buckshore Village Community Center?
No, don't. Not ridiculous. I'm not going to take that mask. I'm going to take their masks. I'm going to take their masks and have them on the mantelpiece. It's not about collecting other people's. It's about taking from them. They've spent a lifetime joking around and trying to humiliate us for months. What great humiliation than taking their masks from them. And the people at Charlie can finally look at them, see who they are, and laugh at them. That's what I'm going to do. It's not about collecting. It's about taking anything that we want because we can.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Is he really the destroyer of Lankador's Wildfire Nate Reese? You'll have to find out tomorrow night. Certainly, he's got a lot on his mind, a lot on his plate, and we've heard a lot from him tonight. Just a few short hours away from tomorrow's exciting show, Honor and Glory. And again, I say it over and over. The best roster in terms of depth, pound for pound, is the LWF. Tomorrow night, you're going to find out why. Because Crossfire versus the Los Lankadors very well could steal the show. And Nate Reese always does something to make sure he's in the spotlight, whether anybody likes it or not. For you, my friend, I want to give you the floor now. I want to give you some closing thoughts, anything that you want to plug, share, say for us. And I can't thank you enough. And fire away here, pun or no pun intended.
Thanks, Tom. Well, we're going to load up the artillery for tomorrow for Honor and Glory. The moment maker, as you say, people can say whatever they want. I never disappoint. They always leave a show with my name across their chicken lips, mentioning something about me, whether it's good, whether it's bad, or whatever you perceive that to be. Nate Reese is there. Now that I've got Stephen Cross with me as well, can show just what we are as a tag team. In regards to final thoughts as well, obviously, there's been a lot going on within this country. We appreciate the fact that the show is still going ahead tomorrow. just so we can get one over on the Lois Lancados in particular. But
and I'm glad the show went over also, because I was like, well, we spoke about this for like the last 2.5 weeks, and then to cancel it would really be, kind of lousy.
And I think in some ways, like, wrestling has a very strong tradition in Britain. Let's try and keep those traditions going. And we all want to think about our favorite traditions, even in darker times like this right now. So let's hope that people can come together and enjoy that and enjoy and appreciate wrestling there, just like they did last week in Cardiff, just like they did with all the other great shows that have been taking place. I know it's been a kind of a raucous week alone in the world of wrestling elsewhere, but looking forward to tomorrow, whether it is KOW, whether it is the LWF, whether it's any of the other shows, whether it's our man there defending his championship in a 30-minute iron match across the sea. Find the different things that you enjoy. And I know a lot of stars who maybe be seen as a little bit more mainstream have said this themselves, but enjoy wrestling. There's been a lot of great content recently. Make sure you can't get caught up. Find the things that you want to watch and watch them. Appreciate, enjoy them, because you never know when the next big moment might come and the next big star might appear, and you never know who that could be.
Amen to that. And if you want to follow Wildfire Nate Reese, you can follow him again on Instagram at Nate_Reese_wrestling, Facebook Nate Reese Wrestling, and certainly find out why. I have a feeling he's going to be full of wildfire, and the Los Lancadores very well might be in that crossfire. And certainly we had a lot to talk about here tonight on Sportswire Radio. Again, tomorrow night, KOW Road to Gold, a natural born fighter, RP Davis versus Big Guns Joe there. And RP Davis certainly had a lot to say in a different context there. We were certainly a little bit surprised about that. And also Wildfire Nate Reese was here with the Los Lancadores, and boy, it is certainly an interesting world that we live in, because 20 years ago, these guys, RPD and Wildfire Nate Reese, were schoolmates. They were playing around in the campus grounds, and they were wrestling each other. And here they are. They're big wrestling stars now on worldwide radio, and you just never know. Listen, anything can happen. Listen, the sky is the limit, and these guys are definitely prime examples of that. And I look forward to seeing them win tomorrow and win big, both of them. And I am the host of the Sports Report, the station manager of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. And if you're on sportnarium.com/player, you're going back to your regularly scheduled program. We're playing you the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast and the Sit Down Mark. So you're going to get your full AEW and WWE coverage here until I come back live. Hopefully I will have a voice by then at 9:30 p.m. because I'm a little under the weather, unfortunately, but we'll figure it out. I always do. And if you're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn, I will be back again 9:30 p.m. for the American Sports Report show for Sportswire Radio. But in the meantime, we were joined by pro wrestling star here of the LWF, Wildfire Nate Reese, the destroyer of Lancadores. We'll find out next week in a regular spot with him, as he'll be in the ring with the Asset Stephen Cross. It'll be the team of Crossfire making their official debut against the Los Lancadores with Disprasada in their corner. I am the host of the Sports Report, the station manager of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. Thank you, and also again to everybody impacted by the loss of Queen Elizabeth. My thoughts and prayers are to you. I hope that certainly we will remember all the good that she has done, and certainly this is a great country that I have a feeling will always find a way to overcome. So thank you, everybody. God bless, and we'll be back here next week on the number one global radio station, Sportswire Radio, with LWF coverage.